So welcome to 2021. We've made it. We are midway through January. We've got an inauguration coming in 2 days, so there's a lot to be excited for. And a lot of new updates going on. So I just kind of wanted to jump on. I took a break kind of over the holiday season with these video updates because quite frankly, all I did was wear sweatpants and eat lots of Christmas cookies and all of that good stuff. So it was a nice little mental break, but also during this time, doing a ton of professional development and updates with that, learning some new vendors, doing a lot of online trainings and certifications and that kind of thing. And the one thing I'm really excited to share with you guys is that Travel Brilliant has now become a member of the International LGBTQ+ Travel Association. So we're very excited. So that means, you know, we've always said that we are an LGBTQ+ friendly travel agency. But what that really means now is that we are part of the association. And the International LGBTQ+ Travel Association is fantastic. They work with vendors to put together travel guides and things like that so that we know about the safest destinations, the best vendors, the friendliest vendors to that community. And so it's really helpful to be a member of it because it gives us access to a lot of information so that we just have another asset in our back pocket that we can go to assist you in traveling. So I'm really excited about that. That also is a hint that we are going to start offering some LGBTQ+ specific travel options, some cruises, some all-inclusive vacations that are going to be curated just for our LGBTQ+ travelers. So be on the lookout for that information. We're also going to add a special tab to our travelbrilliant.net website. So when you go there, you'll go into specialties and you'll scroll down and you'll see, it'll either be under specialties or it might be in another tab, but you'll see that those LGBTQ specific trips. So we're really, really excited to be a part of that association and to be able to bring those curated trips to you. There's also some other sort of specific travel that we are going to be working on, but I'm still buttoning some of that up, so that's TBD. So that's the most exciting thing. I really was excited to kind of share that with you guys. And now sort of some housekeeping stuff, obviously, because we are kind of hoping that we're transitioning into a post-COVID travel world. So there's lots of updates with that. The biggest one that just came out that last week was that the CDC is now requiring a negative COVID test to re-enter the country on a flight. And I know that this has really stressed some people out, but I do want to say to you, do not be stressed out about this. This is a very, very, very good thing. This is another step to opening travel. So you also have to remember that other countries are much more efficient at doing COVID tests than we are. So in Mexico, for example, almost all of my resort partners have reached out to me to say that they are offering complimentary COVID tests. They have private nurses coming to the resort to give you your COVID test to make sure that you have the results available to you in time to get on your flight. So all of our vendors are going above and beyond to make sure that they can comply with that COVID testing requirement. So that's good news. That means that we have destinations that are opening up. Some of them require the COVID test to come in, and now we're going to require the COVID test to go out. But those aren't bad things. More testing is good. So the more testing we have before we depart and we return, the safer that we are all going to be. So logistically, we're going to make it really easy for you. Here in the US, we still have to go to those specific sites on our list that each country is going to require, but we have that information. We can give that to you before you book. And then again, on your return, these vendors are, again, stepping it up so that they can welcome you back to travel. The other great news is that our vendors are doing things like our Charisma resorts, our AM resorts. If heaven forbid you do test positive while you're there, you will be required to quarantine for 14 days. That will be a complimentary stay at the resort. So again, they are making it very easy for us. And I know that the testing thing across the travel world has not been, in my industry, very well received. There's been a lot of pushback, but I think it's a good thing. I think we are taking those steps to open back up travel, and we're doing it very safely. So that is where we're standing with that. Obviously, at any point in time, these things can change. That's why I'm here. To make sure that you are up to date on everything that you need to make that travel happen. What are some other things that we're hearing? Okay, so travel tech. We have a lot of vendors, including IATA, which is the International Airline Trade Association. They are working to develop some apps. And they're calling them health passports or travel passes. There's a couple different names. These apps are going to be really, really handy to you as we move through this sort of COVID, post-COVID travel scenario. You're going to be able to store things like your COVID testing in there, any of your vaccination records. All of that stuff will be in the travel pass, and ideally what those travel passes will do is keep you up to date on the destination that you're going to, so that you have kind of like a one-stop shop for all of the health needs that you have to have for a destination. Some of them may require vaccinations. We haven't heard anything from that quite yet. But this is nothing new. We have lots of countries that require vaccination. If you go to Africa, you're going to require a lot of vaccinations. Some destinations in Southeast Asia. So the idea of having to have a vaccination to travel, again, I don't think every single country will do that. I certainly don't think that will be the expectations, but some of them may. So that those travel passes will, those apps will be really, really convenient to kind of store all of your COVID testing, your vaccination records into those as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We do have sort of this very optimistic view that by summer, we are going to have, globally, a significant amount of the population vaccinated. That we are hearing by fall of 2021, we might not be completely back to normal, but we'll be close enough that people will feel very confident to travel again. So we're easing that way in. I have travelers who have already been traveling. I know that there's some vacation shaming, saying, oh, we're in the middle of a pandemic, people shouldn't be traveling. Everybody has their own level of, risk aversity. I can tell you, I had some folks go to Aruba. We went in August to Mexico. The flight was half full. I know that some of those flights have become booked, but I know still some of the vendors like Southwest are keeping those middle seats open through January. We didn't have any issues with our flights when we were at the resort. We never came in contact with anybody else. Other than our wait staff, and we were all in masks at that point in time. Around the pool, if you guys have ever been to an all-inclusive resort, you know that sometimes you have to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to reserve a chair. And there was plenty of chairs and plenty of space. They're only at 30% capacity. My folks who went to Aruba had the same experience. And it was very easy for them. They landed in Aruba. Aruba requires a rapid test. So as soon as they landed, they disembarked from the plane. They had a rapid test. They were transferred to their hotel. Their hotel sent up room service or allowed them to have room service as part of their package. And it was about 2 to 3 hours before they got their test back. As soon as they got that negative test, they could then experience the resort for the rest of their time there. So I know that there is some vacation shaming going on, but I do think that we're kind of going into that next phase. And I do think, like I said, I think that the CDC's testing guidelines really do help open up travel to us. They are going to keep us safe. So that's my take on it. I'm actually excited about it because I think that that's really a great step for us to keep moving forward. So we've touched on our membership of the International LGBTQ plus Travel Association. We touched on the COVID updates. So travel trends, again, what we're seeing a lot of is a lot of new tech being developed, these apps in terms of travel passes. A lot of our vendors are creating apps so that you can do a touchless experience. We had that at our resort in Mexico. Everything was on the app that we did. So you would normally have a concierge. We use the app to message our concierge. We use the app to make our dining reservations. Anything that we needed, we used the app for. That's how we checked in. That's how we got into our rooms. So a lot of vendors across the board are developing touchless technology to keep those points of contact down, to lower them, which I think is great. Some other travel trends that we're seeing long-term stays because so many folks are working from home now. You don't have to be at home. So we've partnered with VRBO, which is a vacation rental company, and we can help you rent those vacation homes for those longer term stays. There's also some really cool things about like renting, like private yachts for longer term stays and things like that. So there's a lot of options for sort of that nomadic lifestyle is what we're calling it, because you don't need to be at home to work from home. The other thing that we're seeing again, and I've said this a million times, is that expedition travel, those bigger trips, those more bucket list trips, trips that include, hiking to Machu Picchu, zodiacing to the glaciers in Antarctica, like doing things that are really sort of like over the top. Those all-inclusive resorts are never going to go away, but I think what has happened is that a lot of people have said, we got stuck in the house for a year. There's this thing that we've been wanting to do our whole lives. Let's do it. And so we're seeing a ton of that. And for me, it's really inspiring to help people sort of sort through that dream trip that they've been putting off. And so we can make that happen. And I have been making that happen, and it's really exciting. So that's another one, the expedition travel. Travel loyalty. So I do know that almost all of our vendors across the board, with very few exceptions, which we don't work with anymore, have really changed their policies when it comes to changing your travel dates. So before COVID, it was, you bought it. It's like, sorry, Charlie, if anything comes up, if you have travel insurance, you can activate that. But there would be hundreds of dollars in change fees if you needed to change your date. They've eliminated that, and I'm hoping that stays. I think that's done a lot of good for a lot of our vendors' loyalty and keeping their travelers happy, especially with our cruise lines. I mean, we've known that this has sort of rocked the cruise world, and we just don't know when we're going to get back to sailing. I know that there's a lot of optimism for May. I don't know. I mean, we might lose another entire Alaska season. We just don't know. So we may see some cruising picking back up in Europe and in Asia before we see ports coming out of the US or Canada. It's just so hard to know what's going to happen. But again, they've been very good about being able to push those reservations out to move those dollars for your vacation to another date. Many of our airlines, again, that was always the toughest one. Like if something happened and you needed to change your flights, sorry, Charlie, but you're going to pay $200, $250 a person just to change those flights. So we are seeing a lot of the vendors, be a lot more flexible about that. And I think that's done a lot to encourage repeat customers, but also everybody's on edge right now. So I think that's really helpful to make people confident in booking their travel, that they're not going to have to worry. Of course, travel insurance is always important. It goes above and beyond those things like having to cancel your trip. There's huge benefits to that. And some of our countries like Costa Rica are going to require it. They want to make sure if you're coming there. that, and anything happens, that you've got insurance to cover it, and you know, that you're going to be okay. So those are sort of the travel trends. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. A lot of touchless, a lot of tech, a lot of expedition. Oh, a lot of multi-generational travel, a lot of grandparents and grandkids, and maybe not even parents going. So a lot more of that sort of larger family travel is something that I'm seeing too. I'm seeing, you know, obviously grandparents, parents, and grandkids, but a lot of grandparents taking the grandkids places. Grandparents are retired, you know, parents are working. It's a nice break for the parents. It's a nice treat for the grandkids. So a lot of that. So we are working with a lot of different vendors that are kind of, you know, specializing in that as well. So, you know, multi-generational travel, expedition travel, sustainable travel, eco travel, all things that people have considered now since, you know, we have seen a lot of things like, obviously the ports in Venice the water is clear. It hasn't been clear in a lifetime. So people are cognizant of sort of our footprint. So those are some of the biggest travel trends: more sustainable, more adventurous, multi-generational, utilizing a lot of travel tech, are all things that we are seeing kind of moving forward into 2021. And I'll say it again, we have cruises and expeditions and travel booking all the way out to 2023. And we never see, I don't want to say never, we rarely see really significant discounts on early bookings. Sometimes you might get like $100 off or maybe a 10%, but we are seeing really fantastic discounts really, really early. And again, it would make sense. These vendors have gone an entire year without business for the most part, and they are looking to have dedicated income, future income on the books. So for them to promote discounts early is helping them sort of get that future income in the books. And that leads to the last point that I wanted to touch on. So one thing that's really, really important to me is that when I book a vendor now, one of the things that I really truly look for is their financial health. The travel company, for example, Trafalgar Travel, Kensington Tours, they've got a lot of things like African Travel under their umbrella. They are completely solvent. They've got money in the bank. They don't have any debt, which means that in the long term, they're going to come out of this okay. Royal Caribbean is going to come out of it okay. Not every vendor will. So it's important now that I do my homework when I'm looking for these vendors to understand what their financial health is, because I don't want to book you in 2022 in a company that's not going to exist in 2022. And sorry, Charlie, if they go bankrupt, like being able to get refunds. And we've seen that with some of our vendors. Shore Excursions was a vendor that we used, a lot of agents used to book excursions on cruises. Sometimes they had better ones or cooler ones or more interesting ones than the cruise lines were offering. So we were able to use them as a secondary vendor. They've gone bankrupt. Like, thankfully, I didn't have anybody who had money wrapped up in them, but these agents aren't being able to get any money. There was Interjet. I had clients on Interjet. They've gone bankrupt. They're not answering anybody. Thank God I used a tour operator that just took the money that we had in Interjet and put it to another airline. But if I had booked with Interjet directly, that money would be gone. We wouldn't have been able to get it back. So that's another thing too, is like, aside from health and safety standards, destination requirements, who are you traveling with? Like, what companies are you using for your airlines, for your resorts, for your cruises, for your excursions? It's important that we know that they're financially healthy, because, you know, your travel insurance will help you get that money back. But if you don't take a travel insurance policy or something like that, you know, and that's the other reason that I often don't like to recommend the vendor's own travel insurance. So many vendors will also sell their own policies. But if they go bankrupt, that policy is null and void. So I always try to sell a third-party insurance to help mitigate that. So that was a lot. I know I covered a lot tonight. It's been a little while since I've chatted with you guys. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I will answer those. You guys know I'm pretty quick about getting back to you. If you're watching this on a replay, I always love if you just put the replay, like type replay into the comments so I know how many people are kind of watching it afterwards. I know my friend Lisa's always great about doing that with the replay. And other than that, you know, welcome to 2021. Here's praying to a new year, a better year, a year that we really get back to travel. So I'm going to say goodnight and I'll see you guys real soon.